Townsend plays on, plays to the whistle, kicks away for Valentine. Townsend!
All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Chad Townsend Show. And today's episode, as always, is brought to you by playersgolfclub.com.au. Head over to the website. You can check out all of our merchandise, polos, T-shirts, accessories. Plus, you'll see this T-shirt I'm wearing, the Players Club Invitational commemorative T-shirt, is priced to clear at the moment. It is a celebration of our inaugural golf day, which was last week. I want to say a massive thank you to all of our sponsors and participants for turning up, and what it was an absolutely amazing day. So a massive thank you. We already cannot wait to do it next year, bigger and better. As I bring him in, he's here always, and very thankful for that. Elliot Lovejoy from Triple M, mate, thanks for coming on again.
Yeah, here, didn't get an invite to the golf day. I sat on a roof a couple of streets back and I watched the day unfold, so it was good by myself. But I'm glad you guys had a good time.
Well, you've got to actually be able to play golf to be invited and play on the golf day.
I had a handicap for a year.
You can't play, so...
I got better at playing.
Did you break 100?
Yes.
How many times?
3. And then I retired, because what else is the point of life? I've broken 100, who cares? Now I'm done. Now I'm doing boxing.
Boxing, all right. So who are you fighting next?
Someone smaller than me.
I might match you up with someone in the radio. Maybe like
Ray Hadley.
Yeah. Wendell Saylor? Girdler?
Nah, Wendell's got that weird angry energy when he needs to. Girds is too nice a bloke. Let me have a think on that.
Aaron Woods.
Yeah.
He's in radio now.
Because I feel like he'd go easy on me because he's got that real nice bloke side. He's bigger than me though.
Yeah. He'd have that reach maybe.
Yeah, Woodsy. Okay, Woodsy.
Yeah, all right. Maybe we can speak to our fighter promotions next year and chuck you on that card.
Right.
Yeah.
A bit hard when I'm a no-name and he is a name, so I don't know if that'll happen, but we'll see.
Everyone loves an underdog.
True.
Aussies love that.
But they want to know who the underdog is.
Mate, a big weekend of footy on the weekend. Obviously, we've got a lot of Pacific tests happening at the moment, which is awesome and it's great to see. We're going to dive into the Australia versus Samoa game first up. And what a game it was. The Aussies beat Samoa 38-12 at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. Mate, what did you make of the game?
My favourite parts of these tests are because a lot of people for the longest time have argued, international football does it still have its place, yada, yada. When you got the pre-game, you got Connolly Lemuelu with tears, not just a tear running down his face, tears streaming down his face as the Samoan anthem plays, and there's probably 4 or 5 other players the same. To see how much it means in particular to our Pacific nations, that's the best part of it for me.
Yep, I could not agree more with you. I think the raw emotion shown by Cons was a real highlight of why the international calendar is so important. And I know we've spoken about it before previously on the podcast, but I just feel there is still so much more growth in this area of the game. And if we can get these guys, the recognition, the platform, the money, you talk about young Faalogo, which we'll talk about later on, but just making the most of the platform and the eyeballs, it is unbelievably important for the game to grow. Mate, Samoa fought hard, but in the end, probably made a few too many errors against Australia and probably gave some Australia, too good a field position to attack their try line. We'll go through some of their tries from the match. And first off, it was Payne Haas, who scored quite early. And I want to talk about this shape that most teams do. And, they shift to one sideline and they come back with basically the whole back line and everyone's sort of in formation towards the post. Their middle forwards are connecting. And in this instance, it was Ben Hunt who got the ball, went into the line, and you have Isaiah Yeo who was floating out the back. And he's almost like your link man in the middle, as we all know how Yeo plays. And then it was Payne Haas who was running off Yeo. And if you see Stephen Crichton, he was defending at 3-man for Samoa. And he shot out of the line. And Payne Haas kind of drifted and went into that gap where if Stephen Crichton had stayed Samoa would have stopped. That was my take. Did you want to add anything on that? Payne Haas was at his best, wasn't he?
He was. I was actually going to ask you about Stephen Crichton, what you thought, because, forgive me, I can't remember him ever playing 6. He is probably the world's best centre at the moment, but what do you think about his game?
Yeah, I thought he was good. He was solid. He was heavily involved in that no try to young Faalogo, the no-look inside pass. He tried hard. Obviously, getting the ball in his hands is a game plan. But the kicking and the probably the match awareness probably doesn't come naturally to him because he hasn't played that often. As a half, you have to kind of think ahead and think for other people at times. Where he's the type of guy where you just want to be like, mate, get the ball and go. You run, back yourself. Get an offload, a flick pass, bring in some defenders. So yeah, I thought he's the. In my opinion, I agree with you. He's the world's best centre, and I think he's probably the Samoa's best player. So why not bring him closer to the action and give him much of the ball? Mate, last week we backed our man Tedesco, Teddy. We backed him. There was a lot of talk last week about should Teddy be fullback? Dylan Edwards in the squad, yada yada. But you and I both backed Teddy to be our fullback. What did you make of Teddy? 15 runs, 157 metres, 8 tackle breaks.
It was a captain's knock, wasn't it?
Captain's knock. Yeah, 1 try as well.
Yeah, it was just, and I know even after, and the best part of this is that football's all about opinions, and I think it's great. Everyone has a different one, but. Yep. I still think most of the stuff I saw online, even after that performance, they were saying, Edwards wasted in the wing, he should be playing fullback, yada, yada. And I'm thinking, did you watch Teddy at all? I thought he was one of the best players on the field.
Yeah, I agree. I even think that, I watched the game closely, and I even think about some of the little things that Tedesco did, like he was always in and around supporting around his middle forwards. Payne Haas, offloads, he was there. He was in the picture when there was chances to save tries. And that's one thing with Teddy that you always see. He's all effort. His try was come off a pretty popular shape from a scrum, where most teams will have the scrum in the middle of the field and most go 3-3, and then most attacking teams swing the extra player down the open side, the opposite to the feed. And in this instance, Isaac Tungo and Brian To'o were defending, and To'o was holding the patient. He was holding for Tungo to check his lead and come. And Tedesco, if you watch it again, he sweeps really wide, uses his pace, and he's just too quick for Tungo to get to check and score. So, mate, a good performance from Teddy. I think he has cemented himself as, again, the fullback for Australia.
Again, just won a World Cup not that long ago. One thing that maybe doesn't get enough raps from Teddy is his bum, and not in an aesthetic way. But I remember speaking to it was Gavin Cooper, Cowboys legend, not long ago, and he said he's the hardest man I've ever had to tackle because he runs through his rump. Yep. He said he's so strong in the glutes, he's just like a jack in the box. He says he said he was the hardest player he ever had to tackle.
Yep, he's like center of gravity where he can change direction on like a dime, and almost like an NFL running back.
Yep.
That's how you kind of would show some similarities towards that. The next try was Big Tino went through off a short ball from Benny Hunt, straight through the middle, close to the line, and Tino obviously does Tino things, and I thought Benny Hunt was solid again. The first try from Samoa was a very crafty one from two of my Cowboys teammates. So I want to give these guys some props and some shout-outs, because it was a very, very short side in last play, and it was a 2v2, and Luciano Leilua calls the overcall. He's seen something. I'm not sure who is at dummy half, passes the ball to Luch, and the big back rower, a man of that size with the skill he has, I'm pretty sure he's one of a kind. I don't know if there's anyone who can match him with that type of skill. Puts the grubber through. Mars is nice and flat. Here's the call. Scores a magnificent try. Wasn't that? That was a highlight for Samoa, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're happy for Murray Taulangi too. I don't know if you've spoken to him after the game at all, but I'd be interested to hear his thoughts after representing Samoa for the first time and the pride that goes with that. And a lot of the boys that have gone to do that after playing for Australia or being eligible for Australia have then said, "Oh no, I realise this is where I'm meant to be."
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one. Obviously, it's it's a hot topic for international coaches at the moment. I know Mal Meninga's getting asked a lot of questions about eligibility, and there's always kind of been, I guess, a couple of murky areas with regards to people's eligibility and playing for your countries here and there. I think Mal said that he would like players to, at the start of their careers, nominate for their nations, and then that's it. You can't change. Do you think that's a good idea, or do you think it's okay for players to chop and change as they please?
I think it might be a little bit too, here's what you have to do. Because Murray Taulagi is actually a really good example, and I haven't spoken to him. Reading between the lines, though, I don't reckon he realised just how special that Samoa jersey would be till he pulled it on the weekend. So for some of it might take a bit of trial and error. I don't have the perfect answer for it, but I don't know if it's as simple as you have to nominate, because as we've seen throughout time, and name eludes me right now, the lunatic from the Roosters now plays for the Poms. Help me out. Victor Radley. God. Victor Radley, it took him a period of time to discover, I think, a bit about his England ancestry, and he said that playing in that World Cup was the proudest he's ever been putting on a rugby league jersey. So
yeah, I think it's, from my point of view, I'm all about, I'd love to see the Pacific nations strengthened, and Pacific Rugby League, like I said at the top, has so much so much scope for growth. And, we spoke about previously about having games in the Pacific. But I know how proud these guys are to represent their people, their families, their nations. People obviously much higher than us will make these decisions. But it is an interesting one, because it's like, how do you do it, but do it in the best way where people can, like Victor, can do that, and then we can grow other nations. Because we know that Australia and New Zealand, we know that these countries will always be at the top of international rugby league. So one to keep an eye on, mate. I want to talk about a highlight for the Aussies was Hamaso Tabuai-Fido's try. The hammer in full flight. I'm not sure how fast he was going with his clicks of kilometres, but Australia go for the short dropout. They get the back. Hammer gets the ball, and then he's sort of looking, sees a gap, and then just pins it. He's like, I see that gap, I'm taking it on, boom, straight through. What do you make of that? That was an absolute, that's worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah, watching him in space is better than any video you could find on the internet on any website. It's so satisfying seeing him free, running. We saw it throughout the season for the Dolphins. We saw it in Origin, and that one on the weekend was special.
And then the last try for the Aussies was a kick off a scrum from Daly Cherry Evans to Katoni Staggs. Now, this is something that I've seen a lot this year from Adam Reynolds to Staggs. It's been a real improvement of Staggs' game, and that's chasing kicks. I'm not sure how many tries Katoni scored this season, but that was something where I'm definitely sure Katoni has said to DCE during the week, mate, set up a kick for me, I'm flat, I'll chase it. So I love that from your centres. If your centres are calling kicks off the halves, they're hungry to score tries. And another one who does that really well is Valentine Holmes. He's all in when he's chasing kicks. So that was a great try from Katoni. Now, let's get on to Samoa. And we spoke before about one of their great tries. They scored a couple. They had some big moments during the game, but none other than the breakout of this young superstar, Sualauvi Faalogo. The highlight of the night for me was this kid and his dancing feet, his tap-ons, his footwork, the chip and chase for the disallowed try. Mate, tell me a bit about seeing a kid like this on this type of stage that you saw on the weekend.
It reminded me of when we watched Sinir Turuva, of course, the Panthers winger. His breakout game was actually in an international game for Fiji. I think they played PNG a couple of years ago, and he played fullback in that. He ran for 300 and something metres and was outstanding. Liken it to this kid, and I don't know what's going on at Melbourne. I feel like I walked out in my backyard the other day, right? Had no idea this was there. Walked around the side, found a pineapple. Didn't even know I had a pineapple tree that was going. That is the equivalent of what Melbourne have going with fullbacks. A dead set. Craig Bellamy, he goes to his backyard. He's got this big, beautiful green tree, and he just, there's a Pappenhausen, here's a Meanie, and here's a Faalogo. Unbelievable.
And then you go back to drink water, Slater, obviously. You know, I think Hughes started as a fullback.
Unbelievable.
I'm sure there's a couple more that we're forgetting.
And did he? I don't know all of his story, but I'm pretty sure he is a Melbourne kid or a Victorian kid.
I think you're right. We might have to double check that,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is it just speaks like volumes about that Melbourne Storm system, the eye that Craig Bellamy and obviously Billy Slater have for talent. And now reports are suggesting over the last couple of days since the game that he's been now elevated into the top 30 of Melbourne. So again, we're talking about like Pacific football, the platform. This is why we have that international footy to give these guys a chance to represent their countries and also a chance to express themselves and be who they are. And this kid is he's going to be something. So the top 30 though, does he come in? He's played one game last year in the last round. Obviously they've got Nick Meaney, who filled in for Pappenhausen, done a remarkable job. Yeah. The thing with Nick Meaney is, and I don't know Nick Meaney, but watching him, you can see he's a team guy. Like if Craig said to him, mate, you're playing centre this week, you're playing wing this week, you're coming off the bench this week, I don't think he would have a problem with that. I think he's the type of guy and has the flexibility to cover multiple positions. So what do you think? Does the youngster Faalogo, does he come in and play, or is he someone that they kind of just sit behind Nick Meaney for a little bit and let him learn while Pappenhausen still waits to return?
Well, I think they're saying Pappenhausen could be available for round 1 too. So I still think he's probably third on their list. Yep. But he'd probably be number 1 on a lot of other lists. He'd be playing first grade at probably 5 or 6 other sides, easy.
And that leads me on, I guess, to my next question, which was a couple of years ago. We saw Harry Grant before he broke out get loaned out to the Tigers, obviously because they still had Cameron Smith playing. Is this type of a similar situation where Faalogo potentially gets loaned out to a team who is in need of a fullback, plays first grade, develops somewhere else, and then comes back to Melbourne? Do you see this happening or an option?
I'd like to. Where would he go, though? I'm just trying to...
Where would he go, yeah.
Who needs a fullback at the moment? The Dragons could probably use him. The Raiders could probably use him.
Yep.
And I know Hammer's mainly been a fullback, but if Hammer played in the centres again, imagine him learning under Wayne for a year, then going back to Craig. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah. I think all those teams could be handy, a handy pickup. But yeah, let's give him some praise because the youngster absolutely lit up the game on the weekend. The disallowed try, I'm sitting there on the couch just saying, just give it.
Come on. It was so good, it deserved
just give it to him. Oh, mate, that would have been like an absolute highlight for me. So Australia beat Samoa. They now have the week off, like literally the week off, where they've finished their game. They break camp. They go home to their own, their homes or whatever they want to do, and then they reconvene this weekend to prepare for their game against the Kiwis. And Samoa now play New Zealand. So before we get into that preview of the Samoa versus New Zealand game, we'll quickly just let you guys know the score between the PNG Kumals and the Cook Islands. So the PNG Kumals beat the Cook Islands 46-10. Highlight for the Kumals, Nene McDonald scored 4 tries. And our very own North Queensland kids, Zach Labart and Rob Derby, both scored tries as well in what was a packed-out PNG stadium. I saw some photos of the boys during the week. I don't know if you saw them. Unbelievable. There's just 2 standing there, and it's just PNG kids just covered in the background. So we know the effects that PNG has on rugby league. Mate, we'll move into the Samoa versus the Kiwis. Now, this game is getting played at Eden Park in Auckland on the weekend. And I've already seen some rallies and some fans and some gatherings happening in Auckland, which is going to be phenomenal. We'll quickly touch on the team list. So for the Kiwis, Clockstad's at the back, Ronaldo and Azarko on the wings, Tomoko and Manu in the centres. Halves, Dylan Brown, Jerome Hughes. The forwards, Fisher Harris and Captain Leota, the Penrith connection at the front row. Manu Brown is at hooker. The back row is Isaiah Papali'i, Britton Nakora and Joseph Tapine. Mate, that's the starting team.
Oh, I'd like to get your thoughts. Really happy to see Manu play in the centres because when he plays fullback, he's outstanding, don't get me wrong, but I feel like he has to do way too much.
Yep, I agree with you. I think Well, I think the season that Chance has had, he deserves to play fullback. He's played fullback all season. Manu, again, is arguably one of the best centres in the world.
Yeah.
But he's also one of the best fullbacks, so it's handy to have.
Yeah, and I fall in love with underrated players. My back in the day was Brian Norrie at Melbourne. I was a massive fan. My current day, and he's off to the Super League, is Manu Brown. I love his story. Came through a lot of injuries. I don't know if you spent any time with him at the Sharks.
Yep, I spent a couple of years with Nu. He was with us in our squad in 2016, 17, and maybe even 18.
He had some injuries where certain doctors told him he probably wouldn't play again.
Yep.
And to get back, I actually think he's a really underrated player. Can play 9 or 13. I got massive raps on him.
I agree with you. I think he's had a lot of setbacks and a lot of adversity during his career. So it's great to see him still just persevering and putting in the work and getting rewarded for that, because he's a great runner of the ball and he'll be dangerous if he's close to the line. Samoa better look out. We'll touch on the Kiwis bench. Kieran Foran, Big Nelson after his boxing soiree. Our man Griffin Neame comes off the bench in number 16. So shout out to Griffin Neame, North Queensland Cowboys representative. And your man, Leo Thompson, is that his Kiwis debut?
Yeah, it is his Kiwis debut. He's got a brother that plays, I think, for the Crusaders in the Super League. Great. I mean, him and Griff, both great stories. You must have been so happy to see his name on there.
I was very happy to see Big Griffo. He's had a great year, even though he did have one severe throat injury, but he's well over that. He's got so much potential, the big man. He hits hole with a lot of speed, so something to keep an eye on is his punch into the line. He's got great line speed, he's got a big motor, and he's just a great fella. He's from Greymouth, New Zealand, small little country town in New Zealand. Comes from a very humble family. I've met his family before. Just classic country Kiwis.
Is he still the most eligible bachelor in Townsville?
He is still the most eligible bachelor in Townsville.
I don't know what's going on there.
He's about a 2 out of 10, though, with the looks department.
That's right. He's at least a 5. That's unfair. He's got the hide on him, the strawberry blonde hair.
Yeah.
He all seriousness, we've had to interview him a few times through Triple M. He could not be more accommodating. He is such a lovely young fella.
He's a great fellow, very, very humble, a very popular member of our squad. Everyone loves to give him a little bit of banter and rip into him a bit, but that's because you kind of care. And
do you know, and I'm putting you on the spot, do you know how he started or how he got to Townsville or how that all happened?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure, because I asked Griff this question. I said to him, mate, you're from Greymouth, New Zealand. How did someone like the Warriors miss out on someone like yourself? And he said to me that he went to a carnival, he got an offer from the Warriors and the Cowboys, and the offer from the Cowboys was much better with a lot more opportunity. So basically, he just chose that, and he was really keen to move to Australia and move out of, I guess, his hometown and challenge himself. And I love that about players. If you're willing to move and challenge yourself and get out of your comfort zone, and to see guys like him, I guess, break through the challenges of moving to Australia, getting paid in a different currency, living out of home for the first time, away from your parents, away from your friends you grew up with. And now he's playing for New Zealand.
There's some great stories like that, and I think people don't give that enough credit for young kids, even kids that go to the Super League. And I say kids, Brodie Croft was still a kid when he went over there. Bevan French was a kid. He's just won their Man of Steel award as well. It's,
and a grand final.
Yeah. So, I love those kind of stories, because I don't think a lot of people realise just how tough it can be for a kid moving from wherever, other end of the world or the country or whatever. And shout out to Griff, he's been awesome.
Yeah, I think that's an unbelievable point, a very, very good point. We'll quickly touch on this Taua Samoa side. Sualauvi Faalogo again is at fullback. The wingers Murray Tolangi and Brian To'o. The centres Marion Seve and Isaac Tungor. Crichton and Asia still in the halves. Utoika Manu and Junior Paulo, the front rowers. Chan Kum Tong is at hooker. Luch and Cons in the back row, and then Keenan locks the scrum. And their bench, again, is a strong one. Spencer Lenu, Terrell May, Helam Lukey, and Justin Matamua. And I've just noticed here that Helam Lukey and Griffin Neame are both wearing the jersey number 16, and they're really good mates. So
I'll have to do a swap at the end.
I'll have to do a swap at the end. But, mate, who wins this game? This is, for me, I think it's going to be a belter of a game. It's played at Eden Park. I can just envision it right now. There'll be Tawa Samoa flags everywhere. There'll be chants. There'll be crowds. There'll be rallies in the street. There'll be cars. There'll be, every man and his dog out supporting Samoa. So, but in saying that, I think the Kiwis win. I just think, I went through their team before. The guys that are selected in their starting team, I just think the quality of players that the Kiwis have had. I think this is almost one of the strongest teams I've seen on paper for the Kiwis. So I think the Kiwis win. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, and Samoa have a couple out. I think you said last week, without Jerome Luai, without their normal halves combinations, or Anthony Milford, I think, unavailable as well. I think that's really the only, I don't want to say weakness, but anomaly, where you've got Crichton playing out of position, Dejan Arce, who's not a bad half, still learning his trade against Dylan Brown and Jerome Hughes, two out-and-out guns. I'll go New Zealand by about 6.
Yeah, I'll go New Zealand by about 20.
Okay.
I just think they win convincingly.
You got no faith. I'm going to text Muzz after this.
Saying
Chad thinks you're a bum and you've got no chance.
Don't do that. I love Muzz. I love my boys, but I am just looking at the paper.
Yeah, fair.
But I hope my boys play well. Muzz, I was loved to see him scoring a try. Luke scored a try on the weekend, so we'll see what happens. But maybe don't let the boys know that I've picked the Kiwis. Griffin plays for the Kiwis. I've got to pick someone.
Yeah. But I don't want to make you look good, so I'm not going to text Griffin. Chad backs you.
You try and make me look bad.
Yeah, I'm going to text Muzz saying, hey, Chad thinks you
Regardless, I still think, I can't wait to see this game because I said, the crowd and the flags and, it almost give you that vibe of when, I think it might have been New Zealand or Australia played Tonga at Mount Smart and you saw the sea of red.
Oh, it was so good.
That's the vision that I have for this weekend with the Tawa Samoa side, which is going to be absolutely phenomenal. Mate, we'll move into the next bit and the final bit of today's podcast. We've got 5 questions.
Okay.
That we've come up previously, all just revolved around the NRL and things like that. So we'll start off with the first one is, if you were NRL CEO, what changes would you make right now to the game? Putting you on the spot here too, by the way.
No more state of origin outside of Sydney or Brisbane. I've had enough. As a fan of the game, I couldn't give 2 flogs if it's in Perth, if it's in Adelaide. I get we're expanding, yada, yada, but expand with the regular season games, which I know we do. We had that great doubleheader in Perth last year. The state of origin is so special. And I can't even imagine what it's like to pull on a New South Wales or a Queensland jersey. But you should always do that in front of a New South Wales or Queensland crowd. If you'd ever take it anywhere else, it's got to be maybe Townsend as it did once, or Newcastle or something like that in New South Wales. But I've had enough. Stop giving it to Adelaide and Melbourne and places that don't actually care about it. They love the spectacle, yes, but I don't know. I'm a traditionalist. I hate it.
I love that. I love that take. But you know why they do it. It's all about
money. I get it, I know, but at some stage something's got to be not about the money and keep tradition in the game.
It's all about the NRL getting paid money, like for example last year, off the SA government or WA government to say, hey, guys, here's a couple mil. You bring your game to our state, we'll give you a couple mil. Because they have to spend it because it's in their budget.
But it didn't even sell out, Chad.
I know, and I'm with you. I hate it as well. But then they want the governments have their cashed up governments have money to spend on their budget to try and bring people into their economy. So people fly in and stay at the hotels and eat at the cafes and restaurants and use their taxis, and that's how it works.
I get it. And smarter people than me are making these decisions. But you said if I was the boss,
I love it. I'm with you.
I'd be a dumb boss.
I'm with you.
Say, take your money and shove it. We're staying here and we're staying here.
I'm with you. Just go Suncorp and a core stadium.
That's it.
Suncorp, Core. If you get 2 games one year,
great.
Then you swap over and the other team gets 2 games the next year.
How it always was, and it worked.
Yeah.
I'm so confused. I couldn't tell you who's got the home ground advantage next year or the year after that or whatever, because we've got a game in Adelaide, we've got a game in Swahili, we've got a game in Timbuktu. Come on.
All
Bring it
right. Here's my take. If I was NRL CEO, the changes I'd make now is I would shorten the season. All right. I would shorten the season that every team plays a team once.
Okay.
And then you have 3 rivalry games or local derby games. So, for example, for us, we would play every team once.
The Broncos twice.
We'd play the Broncos twice. We'd play the Dolphins twice. And we'd play the Titans twice.
Like that.
You know, so for example, I don't know, you talk about, what's another big rivalry? The
Melbourne Sharks.
Melbourne Sharks, right? So the Sharks play every game, every team once. They play Melbourne once. They play the Dragons once. And then they play, you know, their other biggest rivalry.
Roosters Souths twice a year.
Roosters Souths get twice a year, you know, and so on and so on. So that would put it at 20 games. And after 10 rounds, there'd be a break. And I'll get that into that because that it rolls into our next question, which is, you know, you just spoke about where should State of Origin be played. Now let's talk about, next question is, when should State of Origin be played? Do you think it should still be played on Wednesdays, on Sundays, middle of the season, end of the season? Do you have an answer for me?
From a fan's perspective again, I like it where it is on a Wednesday. When it was moved to the end of the year, it had to be moved there. I didn't enjoy it. I felt like the hype wasn't the same. This is just for me that was watching it. I love it middle of the season because my body doesn't have to go through it, and the attrition that the players go through, the fact that, you know, and I've heard stories of Val Holmes walking into Cowboys camp a day later. I say walking, crawling into Cowboys camp because he's so sore, and then somehow able to turn around on a Saturday night and play lights out. And I love that kind of stuff, the real Iron Man stuff.
Yep. Okay.
You don't like it?
I do. You know, I'm just trying to evolve with professional sport and, you know, speak on behalf of a player's welfare, because I love that as a fan, right? But I'm a player, so I'm giving my perspective from a player's perspective, right? I've seen guys walk into training, haven't been able to walk, the next day you're right, play, which is, it's unbelievably tough, but it's like, it's so damaging to your body and your physical state that how are you going to be once you finish playing football? You know what I mean? If you do that time and time again. So again, respectfully, I'll have my opinion as a player. State of Origin should be played in the middle of the season for me. So I said before that we're 20 rounds, right, for the season. Play every game, every team once. Then you got your 3 rivalry games. After round 10, the NRL has a break. We play our 3 State of Origins in a row. No back. Players don't have to back up. They just go into camp. 3 weeks, play Origin. Let's build it up. Just Origin for 3 weeks. Bam, bam, bam. Everyone's available. You know, there's no mid-season games that are hampered through guys that are unavailable or being rested. The fans aren't deprived of players because they're being rested, because they're not backing up, because such and such is on the table with 1 loss and they're able to rest X amount of players and still beat, you know, another team. That's my take. Did you have an opinion on that take? I know you're thinking very deeply, and it looks like you like it.
When you first said it, I hated it. It's so much less footy. The more I thought about it, I reckon I can meet you in the middle.
Okay.
So what if we had that, but the first week the State of Origin starts is also the first week the NRLW starts. Now the longer seasons are there, so at least we do still have lots of footy to fall back on the weekends as well.
Yep. Love it.
Okay.
More footy. I'm all, and even you chuck in, you know, if you want to do a Pacific game or something in that period.
Right.
Anything over here, Robbie? Is that mic working? Did you have anything you wanted to add? Is it on? As producer Rob?
You got me there. No, I was thinking the same thing. Like add the Pacific rounds in, or even then try even introduce even the Queensland Cup or like those New South Wales games, like just to grab more like the younger talent in. I thought.
Yep.
Pacific, I think Pacific would be cool. Like more of those games at the end of the year now, where we just got footy back. But
I love it. Just put it on that way at the end. You know, we're either resting or, you know, it's just my player's perspective.
This is not bad. This is some of your better work.
Well, thank you very much. I do think long and hard. I mean, I've been, you know, playing for a while now, so I understand what's happening. All right, next question. That was some very good conversation too, by the way.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Conversation.
Yeah, if you're listening to the podcast, just like and subscribe, just basically because of that. The next question is: do we need forward pass technology?
Oh.
Now, this is off the back of, obviously, the NFL Hail Mary from Reece Walsh in the final series. against the Warriors. In my opinion, I think it's time. And I think the technology is there. I'm pretty sure rugby union are using it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't actually watch rugby. That's why I don't actually know.
Rugby since Stephen Larkham was
I don't actually know.
Yeah.
But in your opinion, do we need the forward pass technology brought in for next season?
That'd be, and I should have led with it, that'd be my first thing. I think we've had some pretty passionate discussions about this. And it's not just the Reece Walsh thing. And again, I want to reiterate, this is not bagging touchies. The game is so fast now that so many of them can't keep up with play, so they can't get in line. If we can rule on everything else, and I mean everything else that is so nitpicky in the game, there's been some absolute stinkers. This has been the worst year for it, of just howlers that have changed games. Not again, so much that one, because the Broncos win that game anyway, but there was a game, I think it was the Raiders and, I want to say the Tigers, where the Tigers got dudded back-to-back, and they were in that game at that stage too. It's time. Surely it's an easy thing. It's Derek in the booth, gets in Chris Butler's ear. Hey, Chris, that was forward. Great, pull it up. Away we go.
Yep. I agree with you, because there are a lot of times like where players are too quick. And in that instance, we're talking about Reece Walsh, was the touchy was so far behind the play. And so was the referee, because Reece Walsh is just so quick. So how are they to actually be able to see from like that type of angle where they can actually read the pass when they're, 20 metres in front of them?
Or you have a touchy on every 10-metre line, and they're just in charge of that 10-metre space. So you got 10 in total, and you just line them up. You say you've just got to be in play. See, confusing. Bring in the technology.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Let us know what you think in the comments, guys. Should the NRL bring in the forward pass technology? Do we need it? Is it time? All right, the next question is, and there's been a lot of talk about this at the moment around the NRL expansion. Obviously, this has been the first season with the Dolphins, and, I'd call it a successful inauguration into the NRL. I think they've got a great fan base. Their membership is great. Their results on the field, they started really well. They obviously died off, but that's kind of what happens with a new team. You kind of grow and grow and grow, but I feel like they've already got an identity. There's been talk about the next team, the 18th team. Mate, who should be the 18th team? Where should they be from? What do you think?
I reckon there's a couple that we can rule out that are up for discussion, and please shut any of these down. A lot of the chat around a Pacific team based out of Cairns. I'd love to see a Pacific team. You can't base them out of Cairns for a couple of reasons. You probably can't comment on this. I just think when you've got the North Queensland Cowboys, who literally are, your Mackay, your Townsley, your Cairns, and everywhere in that region, that doesn't make sense. Also, a place like Cairns, unfortunately, doesn't have the facility. So, in the bin for now. North Sydney Bears can't come back as the North Sydney Bears as much as I'd like to see. You can't have another Sydney team, and you probably can't have another Queensland team next. So, the Western Bears, based out of Perth, that play 2 games a year at North Sydney Oval, would be my number one pick.
Okay, because that's interesting, because I've written down here that I think the next team as well should be based out of Perth.
Okay. And
my reasoning for that, is Perth is on a completely different time zone, being on the West Coast to over here. So that, again, opens up,
different time slots.
Slots for games. The other week I actually had a comment from someone who was a mad rugby league fan based in Perth, and said that they're dying for more games and an NRL team, because I've played in Perth and I've seen, we spoke about the doubleheader, which was sold out at Optus Stadium. Like, it seems to me like there's an appetite for rugby league over there, and you understand, like, we know how successful AFL is over there, the crowds that they get. So I think it'd be a no-brainer.
The only reason I didn't bring up a New Zealand side is the way that the Warriors have engulfed the nation at the moment too. I'd like to see a few more years of that. Eventually definitely expand, but...
I definitely agree. I think the Warriors, New Zealand is Warrior Nation.
Would you be happy seeing the Western Bears, or you don't like that?
I'd be open to it. I don't know. It's just like, I think is it too old school? Like, is that, do we just do a completely new franchise like the Dolphins? I understand the Bears have a small fan base, but
A small fan
Well,
base.
compared to, what would their Bears membership be? Like, there are
A few thousand.
a few thousand. That's what I mean. Like,
James Bracey leading the charge. The
I'm not
funny
trying to
comedian in the
disrespect
US.
the Bears,
No,
all right?
I know
Because-
you're not. But this is a club that got kicked out of the competition and didn't get another look in, and have been marching and cheering forever. What? All they would have to do is give them naming rights. Why wouldn't they? Like, if they were to call them the Western whatevers instead, I feel like that would be disrespectful to the Bears.
Yeah, well, that's the question. Like, do you do that? Do you do the Bears, or do you name them like the Western,
I don't know what happens in the West.
the Wild Western,
The Wild Westerns.
the Wild
Something like
Westerns?
that, yeah. No.
Well, just quickly before we move on to the last question, is that Super Rugby has a Pacific team called Manu Pacifica,
Yep.
who are based out of Auckland,
Yes.
who have quite a big fan base. You speak about a Pacific NRL team, which I love the idea, and I just think that if you had that, there would be players who would be that keen to go and play for that side.
Josh Papali'i already said.
Yep,
Yeah.
and Junior Parlaws would be the same. I'm pretty sure said he was really keen to see something like that happen, and I've got no doubt, that club would be like inundated with interest. But
Yes.
you're right, because you just don't know where to put them. Like, you couldn't. Cairns, no brainer. It's our spot. Sydney, you can't put another team. Brisbane's already got Dolphins and now, or obviously the Broncos and Dolphins now. Sorry, so I just can't see a location for them at this stage, unless.
New Zealand?
Or New Zealand, or do you go put the Pacific in Perth, or is that too far away from the Pacific?
That's fair distance.
Yeah,
Sunny Coast.
forget I said that. Sunny Coast. All right, well, that's something for
The comment people.
you guys in the comments section. Let us know, where should the Pacific team be, who should be the new side, and where they should be. That's the question. Let us know your thoughts in the comment
And
section.
why are they the Bears?
And why are they not the Bears? The last question of today's podcast is the 10-minute sin bin. Should teams be eligible to replace the person who has been sent for 10?
No. Why?
Because games are just like, if you get someone in the bin, it is 10 times harder to defend and play with someone in the bin, right? And
But shouldn't
more
it be?
often than not, you've got a disadvantage.
But you should have a disadvantage because someone's cocked up.
But in a different way, like games, there's 2 and 3 try swings in this 10-minute period where games are just over. If I'm watching a game, right, on a Friday night, it might be the first game. I can't remember who it was. It might have been the Titans versus, it was at Seabus Stadium. I can't remember who they were versing, but there was might have been the Warriors actually. There was sin bin after sin bin, and in this game, it was there was sin bins galore. But in a game where someone goes to the bin, it's the advantage is just, it's too much. 10 minutes is too long. It's too much. There's 2 try swings, 3 try swings. The game's over. I'm game's over. I'm not watching it anymore.
Yeah, but the argument on the other side of that is, and maybe the NRL could look at, are they a little bit willy-nilly with their sin binning? Is there too much that we're doing? But
A couple of years ago, there was 5 sin bins for the whole season.
yeah, so
This
maybe
year-
we need to meet in the middle there. But in saying that, you have a player disadvantage because your team or an individual on your team made a big mistake. A sin bin should be a big mistake,
Yep.
whether it's foul play, a terrible high shot or tackle or whatever. I agree there maybe should be less in the game, but I don't think you should have a replacement player, no.
Yeah, I just think that the amount of, I don't know, the NRL's cracking down on head contact with the shoulder, but the amount of times this year I saw guys slip and fall into high contact.
So maybe more suspensions, less sin bins.
And then get sin bin. It's
Yeah.
well, this guy didn't have no malice to try and hit this guy high.
Yeah.
He slipped, and unfortunately, we play a contact sport, head contact's been made, and it's boom, you're in the sin bin, boom, game's over. I just want to see the product be a premium product, and I think it's getting hampered, and games are being swung by that type of decision, which is it's an accident at the end of the day.
Yeah, that example, again, maybe on report more than you use the sin bin, but
Yeah, well, I don't know. Obviously we're big NFL fans and we love our NFL. And if they get a player who's ejected and gone for the game, basically sent off, they're allowed to replace a player. So it's always, teams are on even terms. This player's just not allowed to play anymore. So I think there's something to do there. The reason why I had this question was because I read the other day that the NRL was considering a 5-minute sin bin. Did you have anything to add there, Robbie? Or
No, I was going to actually ask you if you'd already started talking about it, if I missed that before. The 5
Yeah.
minutes, what was your thoughts on the 5 minute?
Yeah.
Do you reckon it'll just get willy-nilly if it's 5 minutes or it's too short?
well, that is the question. Do you think the system needs to be changed, or do you think 10 minutes and the system that it is now is fine? Or
I
do you
think
think
10 minutes is great. I hate the 5 minute. I just, where I will again meet you in some sort of middle is I think we over police. And I think there's too many sin bins, yes.
Okay.
Especially for innocuous ones where players are falling, yada, yada, yada. That's where, again, you can put someone on a report, look at it after the game. But
Yep.
watching the game, I don't think it takes away from the spectacle when it's 13-12. In fact, at times it's more exciting.
Well, I think there needs to be changes, to be honest. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. That wraps up our 5 questions. And we'll quickly, before we do wrap up today's podcast, we'll just run through some of the notable scores in the NFL. How'd you go on fantasy, firstly, just quickly?
I had my first loss of the season. I needed Justin Herbert to go nuts, and he decided to not. So.
The Chiefs beat the Broncos 19-8. No surprises there. The Ravens beat the Titans 24-16. Commanders over the Falcons 24-16. Vikings beat the Bears 19-13. The Bengals get a much-needed win over the Seahawks. My Browns, yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am here for it. My Browns get a win over the undefeated San Francisco 49ers. Give me your thoughts. Sucked in.
Did you even get up to watch this?
Yes, I did.
Did you actually?
Oh, I did.
You had a win with a backup. They had a kick to win it. Here's the thing. Here's what I hate about Cleveland fans. And I only know 2 of you, really. You're dead set. You're right each week as life and death. You got to be a bit more humble. You're 3rd in your division. Chill out.
We got a solid division, though.
But your division sucks this year.
What about your division?
The Bengals suck. Pittsburgh suck. And who else is in there? The Ravens are okay. My division sucks, and we're winning it.
Yeah.
Sucked in. Up the Bucks.
How about, the thing I love the most was the Browns walkout. You know how the 49ers walk out with the speaker?
Yeah.
So the Browns are walking out with the speaker too in the tunnel, and I was like, yeah, I love that.
Have you got plans to want to go to Cleveland and watch a game?
Not at this stage. I've got 4 kids, so...
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. One day. Wait till
One
they're
day.
old enough to look
I'd love
after
to.
themselves at
I would love to.
6 or 8 or whenever they can do that by themselves.
I would love to. Dale's Texans beat the Saints 20
say Dale.
20 to 30.
Dale's
Anything on that,
Texans.
Dale, out the back? He doesn't. He reckons he's a Texans fan, but we're actually still yet to see any
Didn't know
official
who his quarterback
confirmation.
was.
We don't actually believe if that's actually the case. He's just picked a team when we've asked
That's
him
why
on the
he's
spot.
run away come NFL chat. He doesn't want to be caught out in a lie again.
Yeah. Next game was Jaguars 37 over the Colts to 20.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are just dominating at the moment. They're sitting 5-1. The Panthers 0-6. Frank Wright is about to get fired.
Yeah, he's dead.
That's what happens when you suck and you get the number 1 pick. You continually suck for probably a couple more years until you get a couple more picks. And
I'm actually I'm going to a Panthers game in a couple of months, and I bought tickets a while ago, and I just looked online, and they're about the 1/3 of the price now. So.
yeah, well, that's probably good.
Yeah.
Mate, your Bucks went down 20-6 against the Lions, who are just flying.
Yeah, the Lions are legit. We played horrible.
Yeah, and the Eagles went down to the Jets, which was surprising. They take their first loss on the weekend, and the Cowboys get a close one over the Chargers, mate. That is it for today's podcast, buddy. Thank you very much for coming on again.
Always a pleasure.
And if you enjoy the podcast, everyone, please make sure you do subscribe, drop a comment. We do really appreciate all of your support. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next episode.